Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And once again, that is the sound of rock cracking, and you've got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. And I'm your host, Dr. Ed Holliday, right here on webtalkradio.net. And the sound of rock cracking is not General Flynn trying to break his way out of prison, because even though he pled guilty, he's not going to prison because the Department of Justice has dropped their case. The rock splitting is going on inside of Washington, D.C.'s elite, Washington, D.C.'s deep state. The incredible story of General Flynn, how he was set up, how the FBI, the hierarchy of the FBI and the past Obama administration officials, possibly and including President Obama himself. And this week, of all weeks, things come piling in right here in the month of May, and we still are getting new tidbits and openings of transcripts that the insiders, the political insiders in Washington, have known for 3 years now and would not let the public know, so that they could keep this Russiagate hoax together. And General Flynn is being exonerated. And on today's show this week, we have an exclusive clip from General Flynn. Not recently. This goes back to the Republican National Convention. And I was speaking with General Flynn on the floor. I have not played it because the sound in the background of what's going on at the convention, you can hear it. It's a little bit loud. But I want you to see why General Flynn was so dangerous to the Obama administration, why he was like kryptonite to the Obama administration. Remember, when we did this recording, this was before Donald Trump had even been nominated by the Republican National Convention. It was on the floor where I was a delegate, and I was talking to General Flynn, and you can hear General Flynn's background voice of why he and Donald Trump were teaming up to change America, why he got behind Donald Trump. You can hear in his voice this pride of American values coming forth, and why he was inside the Obama administration, and he was fired in 2014, supposedly because he did not like Obama not standing up against a radical Islamic terrorist. You know, you remember President Obama would not even call them Islamic terrorists. And yet General Flynn was fired, and they then not only fired General Flynn, they had this poisonous attitude that they wanted revenge. They didn't want him to have a chance to do anything, anywhere. And the fact that General Flynn was picked by Donald Trump to be in a campaign to help him on security matters and understanding the American security system, they did not want General Flynn in charge of anything because they disrespected General Flynn. They hated what he stood for, and yet the American people chose Donald Trump. But let me play this clip for you that's never been heard before. I haven't played it. I've had it because it was part of some other clips I played with General Flynn from the Republican National Convention, but this has a little more feedback in the background. But I want you to hear it because you can hear America in General Flynn's voice. And these people, these leaders of the FBI, the CIA, the Obama administration, who picked General Flynn, they set him up to fail because they could not allow someone who knew from the inside what was going on. Why? We are finding out from other writers, Andrew McCarthy and others are saying General Flynn was the one guy coming into the new the new Trump administration. The Obama administration was going out, and President Trump had picked General Flynn to be his national security director, and no one else on the Trump team would know the inside of the intelligence system. General Flynn knew it because he was inside. He knew it, and he got fired in 2014, and he was a threat that President Obama did not want in the new administration. Why? Because James Comey and Biden, Obama, Sally Yates, James Clapper, these were the people who met on January 5th, a couple of weeks before the inauguration, and they had a meeting. We don't know what they said, but they had determined that they wanted General Flynn out, and they had the FBI had this. They had already been looking at General Flynn, and they were closing the case because there was nothing there. And Andrew McCabe said, keep it open. He said that we had those notes that he said, if you haven't closed it, keep it open. Why? Because someone decided they were going to go after General Flynn. James Comey sent McCabe and another FBI agent into the White House at the first week when everything was started with Donald Trump, and they interviewed General Flynn not to get information, but to set him up to fail, to set him up where later he had to say he lied because there was a conversation. Remember, a conversation that the FBI, the CIA, they already knew every word he said because it was recorded. They did not go to get information. They went to set him up to get him out. To get him out of the Trump administration. Why? So that the coup instigators, the people who wanted to bring down the President of the United States, could run the Russian hoax. It was nothing but a hoax, and General Flynn could smell it out. They had to get him out of the intelligence system. They had to get him out of the administration, and they went after him, an American hero, a general had been in the military for over 30 years, fighting for America, protecting America, and they pinpointed him to make him look like a traitor, a national disgrace, and they succeeded till last week. Why? Take a listen. Here's this footage. I want you to hear a soundbite nobody's ever heard before. You hear it right here on Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics, because I was with General Flynn on the floor of the Republican National Convention. See why this General Flynn was so radical in the eyes of the Obama administration. Take a listen. Remember, he was fired in 2014 by Barack Obama because he did not toe the line when it came to not using the term Islamic terrorist, and he wanted to do everything that President Obama didn't want, and he was fired. And here he was on the floor of the Republican National Convention. He was Trump's number one security intelligence briefer, and when Trump won the election, he was going to be their national security director. He did not have to be approved by the Senate to be the national security director. The Democrats could not stop him. President Obama could not stop him by congressional interviews or going through, he did not have to go through the process in the Senate. He could be put there directly by President Trump, and they could not allow it. Somebody decided we can't have this man. Why? Take a listen to General Flynn and the American heart of this general that they were about to tear apart.
Well, there's a reciprocity here, that Donald Trump is fighting for this country. This guy could go and do much different things, but he decided, like I decided, that this country's going in the wrong direction.
Did you hear General Flynn talking about candidate Trump at the time? He said that President Trump, or candidate Trump, had decided this country is going in the wrong direction, like General Flynn had decided this country had gone in the wrong direction, and he got fired by President Obama at the time in 2014 for telling President Obama this country was going in the wrong direction. He was fired and kicked out of the intelligence community, and now he was a threat to President Obama and all that the radical left Democrats had established for 8 years within the intelligence and military communities. And General Flynn knew every bit of that, and he knew how to turn it around because he knew America was going in the wrong direction. This was the poison, the kryptonite that the Obama administration feared. They didn't fear it a lot then because they thought Hillary Clinton was going to slam dunk Donald Trump and win the presidency. But now you see what happened when President Trump won the election, and all of a sudden this man that the Obama administration had fired, he was the one who knew how to go on the inside and turn around and rip out all the junk that President Obama and his team had put in place in the intelligence agencies. Wow. Now, we'll let General Flynn keep on talking.
He decided, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to try to fight for it. So he got to this level. I mean, look at this is warfare, right? So look at the battles that he won. Look at all of these. I mean, how many did he win? How many debates? How many people did he have to knock off to get here? Almost 90% of them political class people. This country is sick of the political correctness and sick of the political class because the people in the federal government, they've become disconnected with the people out in middle America. So
once again, the general recognized that middle America, they did not like the way President Obama and the left-wing radicals of the Democratic Party were taking this country. He recognized that, and that was making him a threat to the Obama administration when they were on their way out, and President Trump had General Flynn as his incoming national security director.
Donald Trump, he recognized that well before any of the political class did. And so I think that's why he's been doing so well, to be honest with you. And so back to your question, he'll unify the party, but the party also needs to unify behind him. All these, sour pussies out there, right? All these egos that are out there that aren't here tonight and have decided not to show up. Too bad for them. I think that shows complete disrespect for a large portion of this country. Not for Donald Trump. It shows disrespect for our political system, the way it's supposed to work.
See how smart General Flynn was? He knew the American people were ready for a change and turn this nation back in another direction. And yet the political class, and as he said, so many Republicans would not even come to the Republican convention. Namely, the guy that he was the governor of Ohio, and the Republican National Convention was meeting in Cleveland, Ohio. John Kasich, who would never give up running. Even when Donald Trump had the nomination wrapped up, John Kasich kept going around. And even on the day after the election, he had a planned event where he was going to speak up for the Republican Party after Donald Trump lost, because he wanted to be the standard bearer of the lost cause. It was so pitiful. He wouldn't even show up in his home state at the Republican National Convention because he hated Donald Trump. And these were the people, these were the Republicans that hated Trump, on top of the Democratic establishment and all the Democrats and the Obama administration. Donald Trump had so many people going against him, even in his own party. And that's why, you remember when they poisoned General Flynn and they finally got Flynn kicked out and made him say he lied. The FBI, it's so pathetic and it's so horrible what they did, because the American people chose Donald Trump, and Donald Trump had chosen General Flynn to be his national security director, and General Flynn was a threat to everything the radical leftists had put into place. After 8 years of power, the American people said, we want to go in another direction, and the hierarchy of the FBI, of the CIA, of the intelligence communities that had been placed politically by the radical left wing, they were so threatened that they took an American hero named General Flynn and they disrespected him and all the service that he had given to this nation. They ripped him apart. They drained him financially, knowing he didn't have the funds to go to get the lawyer. And I can't believe this law firm, did they have insiders, Eric Holder and others, who purposely, I don't know, I'm not saying this happened, but you have to say, did they purposely practice malpractice of law, that they were in cahoots with the FBI and others to get rid of General Flynn? They were so pathetic compared to the lawyer he has now, Sidney Powell, who did they purposely malpractice law and take General Flynn and purposely make him plea? I mean, it's pathetic, but somebody needs to look into that. Okay, let me let General Flynn finish this conversation that he was having with me on the floor of the Republican National Convention. See what an American hero this man is. Oh, I wish General Flynn would be put in the head of the FBI and just clean house there. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but listen to this American hero who has suffered for the past 3 years and the Russian hoax and all this stuff our country was forced to go through because of the imbecile press that jumped on the bandwagon and participated in this coup to take out a duly elected, constitutionally elected president of the United States. Listen to this hero, this American hero, as he finishes up speaking with me on the floor of the Republican National Convention, General Flynn.
And it shows disrespect for millions and millions of people in this country. And I think that's a shame. This is a wake-up call for America. This is a wake-up call for America, because there is a movement, there is a shift occurring in our country, and the people are going to take this country back. And they're going to do it in the way we're seeing it. And I believe that we're going to see some great changes, some big leadership, some really smart decision-making, some policy that's going to make the rest of the world feel, wow, America really is back. They are, under this guy, these people, they got their stuff together. That's what's going to happen.
Well, President Trump had his stuff together. He became president of the United States, and he had General Flynn as the National Security Director, and he was forced out by a coup that was going to bring down this president. And the one man that knew how to unearth everything they were doing was General Flynn. And they had to get him out of that position of the National Security Director. And they succeeded. And not only did they succeed doing that, you have to admit, they succeeded in perpetuating this Russian hoax. And if they did not get President Trump out, which they were trying to do, they would at least weaken him so that in 2018, instead of a vibrant America, they could turn America against this man. They did. Most of Americans that were not Republicans or conservatives felt like, because they heard it on CNN, NBC, ABC, MSNBC over and over, how President Trump colluded with the Russians. None of it was true, but day after day, the drumbeat, what they did, they put in the American mind, the American voters, that President Trump had colluded with the Russians. And this cabal of conspirators who planned this coup, if they couldn't get the coup, they would at least get the 2018 midterm election, and then they would get enough in the House to impeach Donald Trump. That's what happened. We got to talk about that. But first, I got to remind you, listen to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. And we have had a show with a clip that nobody has ever heard before except for you, the listeners of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. And you can see the heart. You could hear the heart of General Flynn beating. I'm glad you got to hear that exclusive clip going back to the Republican National Convention. But let me remind you, we got a book out there. I say we because I wrote a book with Dr. Alveda King, Dr. Alex McFarland. That book's called Bedrock Truth, and that book is it's available. You can go right to the book cover on the website here of Rock Splitting Politics, and you can click on that. It'll take you right to my book, and not only that, but there's some more books you can order. And if you need a face mask, they got cloth face masks we got for sale now, and you can go there and get you a cloth face mask, non-medical face mask. We need to be at this time still covering up, and as the country is opening up, reopening, thank goodness, we need to do it safely, and that's one way is wearing a face mask. Again, it may not protect you as much as it helps protect others. If everybody's wearing face masks, it will help reduce the likelihood of a rebound of this virus that has caused worldwide disruptions. And the political left is trying to use it to their advantage. So let's keep this infection rate down, and hopefully with the sunshine and humidity, we'll pray that, God willing, we'll get this thing knocked down and tampered down so we can get back to building America not only great again, but the best it's ever been. Now, I told you last week we would be having microbiologist Dr. Dean Hart on, and you can go to his website, Dr. Dean Hart. You can look that up, go to his website, and we're going to move that show to next week. That we'll have a time to get that in. But we've had so much with General Flynn dropping, and I got this footage, and we're going to talk about a little bit more in up the show with some footage from Fox News about what all went on and what dropped last week. We're going to do that right after this little break. But I do want you to know we'll get Dr. Hart on next week's show. And not only that, we're planning on getting some information about the virus, where we are now at this stage and reopening. So we'll be doing that next week. And also, I just want to remind you to tell your friends and neighbors about Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics, and we'll be getting more in the politics of who's running and different races as we go into the year. But what happened last week with the shoes dropping, and we got more information supposed to be coming out. So even as you're hearing this, there may be new information out. But I just have to let you know that General Flynn, when we've had people in the press and others call him a traitor to his country, don't you know it ripped his heart apart, and he could not fight back. And now the truth is coming out. Let the truth set not only General Flynn free, let it set America free. Let's get free from this oppressive press, the oppressive mainstream media, the fake news. It's time to clean them out. Andy Lackey was fired or removed from NBC News, the NBC last week. Maybe there'll be a cleaning out at CNN. There should be. Let's get some real news for once. All right? Somebody tell CNN to clean up their act and get some real news. Now, let's to finish up the show. I got a clip that I want to play from Fox News last week when this was coming out.
Editor-in-Chief of JustTheNews.com. And, John, good to have you with us. I must say,
thanks,
Adam Schiff doesn't mind lying a bit, does he? He does it with ease. He does it with seeming pride.
Listen, I've talked to a lot of people in the last few days who feel like he's a modern-day Joe McCarthy, that he is willing to impugn people's reputations with innuendo rather than fact, and to say whatever needs to be said in public, and to watch people on television say one thing and then go behind his closed doors and tell them the truth, which was completely opposite. Yesterday was a bad day for Adam Schiff, not only because the Flynn prosecution he touted got thrown away, but because his own transcripts undercut his 3.5-year narrative of Russian collusion. You went through them before, Lou. You had it on the money. Every witness couldn't provide a single piece of evidence of collusion.
And that was Lou Dobbs on the Fox network, Fox Business, speaking with John Solomon, who's probably the world's best investigative reporter now. Gets no recognition because he's not a left-wing radical. He's just a journalist who's actually doing real journalism. So it was good to hear him talk about Adam Schiff, the liar, and how these documents are showing what a lie that the Russian hoax has been, and showing that people high up in the hierarchy knew it was a lie, and the American people been left in the dark. And that goes back to what I was talking about right at the break. The American people were poisoned, determined people in the past Obama administration. I'm thinking James Clapper, others, who were saying that, even called Donald Trump a traitor, and said that there was plenty of evidence of collusion with the Trump campaign in Russia. There was never anything found by the Mueller report. And here in these Schiff hearings, 53 people were interviewed extensively, and no one had any proof of any kind of collusion. And Adam Schiff, Congressman Schiff from California, who you heard John Solomon say people are comparing to McCarthy back in the 50s. This is pathetic, but it worked. For the first 2 years, I hate to say it, they got rid of General Flynn, the American hero, the Russian hoax set up by James Comey and the FBI, and it could have been President Obama. We don't know yet. But what they did was they poisoned the airwaves. They tried to set the entire country of America against its president. They got the weak minds. They got the shallow minds that were easy to influence, the left-wing radicals. But thank goodness there are people like you and me and others that stuck with President Trump. And now the liar, Shifty Schiff, Congressman Schiff, and what they did, they poisoned the atmosphere so that in 2018 Republicans didn't have a chance. One reason, when they poisoned the atmosphere, they threatened the Republicans who were in office. A lot of them thought, hey, I'm tired of this, it's time to get out. And what we had, like over 40 Republican congressmen and women who decided not to run again, and that automatically made their seats up for grabs and easier to put political donations in. You know, you had Tom Steyer and Bloomberg and others putting $100 million and more in the congressional candidates. They did this so that they could get the House away from the Republicans and make Nancy Pelosi Speaker again, and then Shifty Schiff could go after Trump and impeach him. And they did that purposely. They poisoned the American minds, the weak, shallow minds, and they got power. They should have never got power. They are the illegitimate leaders. The House under Speaker Pelosi is illegitimate. And do you realize she's second in line to the presidency of the United States? It is horrible to think what would happen if Donald Trump and Vice President Pence both got the coronavirus and would succumb to it, and we'd have President Pelosi, and she was illegitimately Speaker of the House because of the poisoned minds in 2017 and 2018 leading up to the midterm elections. Let's pray for President Trump. Let's pray for Vice President Pence. And let's pray that justice will come to Americans who were served injustice by these political hacks and these part of the coup attempt was the radical mainstream media. American people, you have a chance to rectify. You are the judge and a jury come November 2020. It's time across America, not just for President Trump, but it's time to throw the radical lefts out of offices wherever they are. And let's get to work. All right? Next week, Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. Like I said, we will be talking to microbiologist Dr. Dean Hart. Tell your friends and neighbors they can hear some clips from General Flynn on the floor of the Republican National Convention and hear why he was so dangerous to the Obama administration. Listen to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember to listen again next week for another edition of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You can order Ed's new book, Bedrock Truths, by clicking on the book cover right in front of you on the screen, or visit DocHolliday.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.